This news update is brought to you by...
So, I'm meeting Rico later. Gotta check in with the girls, but first, let me check my usage on the MyLime app. Now, what should I wear? Hashtag sexy. He's here.
It's Wednesday, April the 15th, 2015, and this is your Barbados Today morning news update. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Thanks for joining us. We begin with news that today is the deadline for the submission of the contentious school-based assessments and a warning to government from the president of the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union, Mary Redmond. Redmond's stern caution is targeted at authorities who she claims are intimidating temporary teachers into correcting SBAs. The BSTU leader declared, "Touch one, touch all." The union is insisting that its members will not be marking the papers unless they are paid, but the Ministry of Education is adamant that marking the SBAs is all part of the teachers' normal duties and has even threatened to discipline them for dereliction. Redmond told Barbados Today she is gravely concerned over reports reaching the union that certain principals were instructing some temporary teachers and even heads of departments to mark SBAs they did not supervise. The central bank is projecting economic growth this year of between 1.5% and 2%. In its first quarter economic review delivered yesterday, Bank Governor Dr. Delisle Worrell said this growth is based primarily on the strength of tourism activity and further private sector investment of about $700 million.
Underlying factors expected to affect tourism's performance are an increase of 3.8% in seating capacity from the U.S. market during the summer period, the additional hotel room capacity mentioned earlier, and the hosting of the England versus West Indies cricket test match. Low oil and commodity prices should help to keep the rate of inflation low. The emphasis for the short term has to be on increased productivity, and job growth will depend heavily on the spillover from the tourism and construction sectors.
Dr. Worrell said the fiscal deficit of 6% of GDP for financial year 2015-2016 remains above the levels that can be sustained over time. He said the immediate objective of reducing the ratio of debt to GDP would be attained only when the deficit falls below the growth rate of GDP.
Government's deficit for the fiscal year 2014-15 was 7.2% of GDP, and there was a small primary surplus of $37 million. The fiscal savings of $326 million included $70 million of cuts to wages and salaries and $126 million in cuts in grants to public institutions. However, interest payments were $62 million higher. The revenue measures implemented since August 2013 raised $83 million during the last fiscal year, with the consolidation tax, municipal tax, and the asset tax on financial institutions amounting to $29 million, $36 million, and $19 million, respectively.
The private security sector in Barbados is asking the Frontier Stewart administration to provide a level playing field on which its members can function more efficiently. The call came yesterday from a retired senior police officer who now heads the Caribbean umbrella body for private security professionals. Or Reid, chairman of CASP, as the organization is commonly called, contends that there's a great disparity between the level of training which private security practitioners get and that of the police force, for example.
And there are some of us that will argue, but shouldn't government have a role to play in terms of ensuring that there are standards applied to the training of persons who are engaged to function as security officers? And B, shouldn't government also be involved in providing some level of funding towards assisting with the training of private security practitioners? Because they are so committed to ensuring safety and security for persons who are not only residents in Barbados, but who are visitors to Barbados. If you pursue this point to its logical conclusion, you will therefore see that if there is a spike in crime, there is a commensurate response, as we've heard, in respect of countries issuing notices to their residents against coming to Barbados. But when you examine the persons who actually provide security services, you're going to find that the number of private security officers substantially outnumber the 1,500 or 1,200 police officers in Barbados. And we have very close to 4,000 private security officers, either employed through the companies or employed by hotels or other establishments to provide security services.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Secure your future, be financially strong. Since 1983, we have been there for you. A smart range of products, great tax benefits. We're the solution to your hopes and your dreams. The Barbados Workers Union Cooperative Credit Union. The Barbados Workers Union Cooperative Credit Union. Humble beginnings to smart loans, smart savings. Save smart and borrow smarter. That's the move for me. Stability, prosperity. We're the solution to your hopes and your dreams. The Barbados Workers Union Cooperative Credit Union. The Barbados Workers Union Cooperative Credit Union.
A test of character, a test of focus, a test of will, a test of resilience, a test of courage. Barbados, the test is on. West Indies, England, May 1st at the Mecca. Tickets $30, $40, $50, and $60. It's on.
Are you Barbados is on?
FAS Entertainment presents the Digicel Vintage Reggae Show and Dance, featuring Marcia Griffiths, Gabby Thompson, Fab Five,
I'm the man they call Sweetie. I'm in
Boris Gardner,
I wanna wake up with you.
Leroy Gibbons,
Magic moment.
Shaka Demus and Pliers, Admiral Tibet, plus Biggie Irie and Super Ruben. MC Admiral International, the Digicel Vintage Reggae Show and Dance. Friday, April 24th, Garfield Sobers Gymnasium. Showtime, 9 p.m.
On the regional scene now, OECS member states now have a document to access HIV/AIDS funds for at-risk populations. A number of health ministers signed a concept note in St. Lucia last week. The document is a requirement of the Global Fund and will help ensure that funding and care reach those who need them most. Joan Didier is the coordinator of the Country Coordinating Mechanism, RCM.
The Global Fund has stated clearly that they are not going to fund all our needs. The funding in this proposal seeks to address the access to care by vulnerable populations. And in our context, some of the most vulnerable populations have been identified as men having sex with men, sex workers, and youth. I just also want to say that any proposal that goes to the Global Fund has to be evidence-based. So we cannot just say to the Global Fund that we have 10 young men. We have to provide them with the data to support that.
And finally, on the international scene, hundreds of planes flying commercially today could be vulnerable to having their onboard computers hacked and remotely taken over by someone using the plane's passenger Wi-Fi network or even by someone on the ground. And that's according to a new report from the U.S. government's Accountability Office. Now, the disturbing report even suggests that computers on board could cause a systems failure or potentially cause the plane to crash. And that's our Barbados Today morning news update. You can join us again, though, this afternoon. Until then, remember to log on to www.barbadostoday.bb Subscribe to our e-paper and email updates or like us on Facebook. You can also catch us on Izumi Media in bus terminals or screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. Also tune in to Channel 101 on Lime TV and Mix 96.9 FM to get all the latest news and sports. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Have a fantastic day.
This news update is brought to you by...
So, I'm meeting Rico later. Gotta check in with the girls, but first, let me check my usage on the MyLime app. Now, what should I wear? Hashtag sexy. He's here.